Hi everyone and welcome to another video from Hostile Territory. In this video we'll be talking about something that is even more dangerous than gossip in a workplace, and that is jealousy. Now, jealousy is not good in any situation, be it in the family, be it at work, be it with friendship or anything else. It's a bad situation, but in a toxic workplace it's about 100 times worse. So in this video we'll be mainly talking about that topic and, more importantly, how to avoid jealousy in a toxic workplace. So stay tuned.
Hostile territory.
Now, to better understand this whole topic, we'll try to define what jealousy is. I'll just state my personal opinion. Jealousy is, in fact, the urge of someone to own or to have what you already have. So, where do the problems start? Well, they start the moment when that person who is jealous, who can't stand the fact that, for instance, you have, I don't know, a nice functional family. People may be jealous of your job, may be jealous of how you look, may be jealous of what you do apart from your job, may be jealous of how much money you have or what kind of house you have. I think there's no end to the reasons for jealousy. Problems start when that person can't stand that fact and can't control him or herself and keep those sort of bad thoughts within themselves. They start sort of exposing those feelings and start to express those feelings openly. Now, jealousy is something that is sort of, and I'm not sure I'm going to use the right term, is exponential. It grows exponentially. So, it can start with someone being jealous of your shirt, what you have on you, and get to the point that that person wants to, I don't know, push you out of the company because you do a better job. There's no end to this, if you know what I mean. Now, the first tip I have for you for avoiding and fighting jealousy in a workplace is to, and this is perhaps the most important tip, is to keep a distance from jealous people. By this I mean that the moment you notice jealousy, that it's starting to happen, get away from those people as much as you can, okay? If you were previously socializing with them, perhaps having drinks after work or having lunch with them together or everything else, even try to avoid these people besides work. So if they invite you to any kind of happening, to any kind of sports manifestation, I don't know, I'm making this up, rather decline. Again, jealousy, when it starts, it's just gonna go for the worse. So all that you can expect if you continue to socialize with them is trouble. The next tip is to keep a low profile. By this I mean do not expose yourself more than you have to. Now, this tip is going to be hard to implement if you have a big ego. We've talked about the ego in a toxic workplace in a specific video. I'll leave a link in the corner. It's going to be hard if you have a bigger ego and if you want any kind of progress at work. If you want to be seen by the management, if you want to get a promotion or something like that, that's going to be hard to do. But again, if you're in a very jealous environment among people who will eventually perhaps mean you harm in some way, it is better to minimize the exposure you have. The next sort of practical tip I have for you is to try and hide your work as much as possible. What do jealous people do in most cases? Jealousy comes from a place where people are essentially incapable of doing the same things you are, and that is partially where the jealousy comes from. They will try and steal your work as much as possible. I had that experience. Also, again, jealous people will not have any problems taking credit for what you did. I also had that experience. So they will pick up the phone and tell the management that they did that instead of you. So to avoid any kind of problems and to avoid being used and to avoid being used from jealous people, hide your work as much as possible. Do not talk about your work. Again, if you keep distance, you won't have problems with this. Next, avoid talking about your family, about how much money you have, about your financial situation, about what you do at home, and everything else regarding that. So your personal life should not be a matter of conversation in any way. Especially avoid this if you have a so-called successful life. By this I mean you have a fully functional family that loves you. That's a big thorn in the eye of jealous people. If your financial situation is better, that is even a bigger thorn for jealous people. If you're in line for some kind of promotion, if you're have some kind of cool hobby or something else. I don't know, I'm making this up. Keep it all to yourself. You would not believe how jealousy spreads. Again, it is nothing short of a disease that spreads out. So jealous people will not only be jealous about your workplace or how you do work or your success at work, they will also start becoming jealous of all the things that I've mentioned. I'll just make an obvious example. If you come to work with a better car than your boss has or your coworkers have, you're in big trouble regarding jealousy. Even if they see you in town, for instance, again, I'm making this up. If they see you in town walking with your family and having a good time, and it's also going to be a problem. So, all in all, if you want to avoid and prevent jealousy, your personal life should be out of the equation and be left out of any kind of conversation for sure. Another thing you should be very aware regarding jealousy is that there is no stopping of it. I think that, at least from what I've seen, jealousy again spreads like wildfire. So when that person starts to be jealous of you for some reason, again, it may start with something simple, like you being better at, I don't know, soccer, and it may finish with them trying to, I don't know, push you out of the company. That's the weird mechanism on how it works. In a toxic workplace, especially, what can happen regarding this? People will start to go overboard regarding that. When people start expressing jealousy, they won't stop, okay? Jealousy starts becoming, over time, inevitably hatred, and hatred can then turn into lots of other things, hostile behavior, aggressive behavior, abusement, and everything else. So you have to be very careful about this. The best remedy for this, in my opinion, is to set boundaries on time. The best time to do this is when you see that the jealousy is just before it gets out of hand. Find a way to pull that person a bit aside and to just simply ask, what's the problem and why is this behavior like this? We've talked about this in previous videos, how to deal with aggressive people. Simply ask what's wrong and just be clear about what you're going to do if this behavior continues. So again, be sure to do this before things get out of hand. As soon as you notice that the jealousy is starting to be full blown, to be open, and that person is not having any problems telling you that, exposing all of that, then use this tip. The next immensely useful tip is to try and not take the jealous behavior personally. Now, I know this may be very hard to do, especially if you're accustomed to defending yourself, to protecting yourself. If you have a big ego, all of us try to protect their ground. That's normal. But if you have the possibility, if you have the power, and it's no short of a power, try to, just let that conversation with the jealous person enter here and exit here. Let it go through your head without any kind of staying inside the head. Why am I telling you this? Well, jealous behavior on its own is poisonous. It is a sort of poison that person expresses, and it sort of passes on to you. This may sound like a bit of mumbo jumbo, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Simply, what will happen? That person, when expressing jealous behavior towards you and, telling you those stupid things like, I know how you did that. You didn't do that with your own work. You did it with, sucking up to the boss. I know how you did that. You couldn't have done that. You don't have enough intelligence for that. I'm making this up again, but that's how the conversation goes. What this produces inside of you is, at least from what I've seen, is number one, fear. Fear then turns into resentment, may turn into hate, may turn into you going through all of that situation when you come back home, and the list goes on. All in all, that stupid behavior from a jealous person will cause you damage. And you know what kind? The most serious kind, and that is health damage. If you're exposed to jealous people most of the time, like I was, and you take all of those things personally, which I did in most cases, it's hard not to, then it's gonna show on your health. And if it starts showing on your health, you're making a big mistake, since you're gonna have to pay for all of that in the long run. So if you want to do good for yourself, then try not to take jealousy from other people personally. And for the last tip on this list, and that is and this is obvious, get out of that place as soon as possible. Jealousy inevitably over time turns into hatred, and hatred is very dangerous in a workplace and in a toxic workplace especially. When people hate you, when they resent you, when they can't stand the sight of you, they are ready to do all sorts of things. They will do almost anything to get you out of their sight, especially if you continue to be better than them. So the sad truth is, if you want to save yourself from future trouble, then get out of that place as soon as possible. It doesn't have to be another company, just try to get another promotion and get out of that division or out of that office and go within the same company to a different place and among different people. In lots of companies who are bigger, like the one I worked in, you can end up in a pretty nice place with other people and not have those kinds of problems. So the main point of this tip is to warn you about this. Jealousy will not stop. Once it starts, it's just like a big snowball that rolls down the hill and it gets bigger and bigger. If you're faced among numerous jealous people, try to get out of there as soon as possible. So, dear viewer, that would be the whole list. One more thing I must tell you. Do not joke around with jealous people. When you notice jealousy, take it very seriously and raise the red alarm on time. These tips will not have much effect if you implement them later, when the jealousy spreads. Jealousy is so dangerous that it can cost you your job. Even though you're working in a toxic workplace, you need that job, you need that paycheck, like the situation I was in, and jealousy can cost you all of that at a moment's notice. Again, what is the mechanism of jealous people? They, through jealousy, try to sort of justify their own incompetence. That's simply it. They want something that you have, they want to do something that you can do, but they don't. They see you as some sort of threat and they see you as some sort of obstacle. And when they bring you down to their own level or preferably get rid of you totally, that's when they've succeeded and they can continue with their own lives. They will not change anything inside of them. They will not use you as an example to try to improve themselves. They will stop at nothing to tear you down. So take it very seriously, react on time, and put an end to it on time if possible. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Again, the purpose of all of these videos is to try and help you stay normal and stay healthy in a toxic and hostile workplace and, God's willing, go through all of it unscathed and to try and get out of there as soon as possible. Health is number one. Always have that in mind. When you lose your health, you've lost everything. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. It's a huge help for what we're doing, and I hope I'll see you in the next video.